Great. Welcome, everybody. I know it's one of the last sessions of the summit, so I do appreciate you all taking the time and coming to this panel session today, and one that I think is a little bit different to panels that we've maybe had on before. I'm Leanne Williams. I'm lead analyst here at the World Biogas Association. I generally work in sort of biogas, agriculture digester policy, sort of oversee all things biogas policy related, but I know that gender diversity is one of the topics that I am incredibly passionate about, and so I'm very excited and very grateful to our Marcoms manager who let me put on this session today. So I think we've got some really amazing speakers joining us. I know that for those of you that did join the awards last night, I think you will hopefully have seen the sheer amount of talent that was coming through. And so many of the winners that we saw last night were women. And I think there were quite a few people that were remarking on it. And I think it was just so inspiring to be able to see so many people coming through. And I think it was just great that I get to follow that up with this session today. So I think just to kind of give a slight intro, the purpose of this session isn't really to talk about hardships and things like that women face, but it's really to explore the business case of why diversity is important, and then, well, particularly within the context of gender, and how sort of important it is to the bottom line, but then also look at the work that different people are doing across the globe, really. So I think there's three. I was thinking about sort of gender equality within the renewable energy and the biogas space, and kind of think it falls under, there's three certain themes to it. It's really about attracting women into the industry, so making the industry an attractive place for people to come in and want to join us. It's about cultivating an environment that once we've got that talent within the biogas and the biomethane industry, making sure that we've got a sort of pathway to making sure that everybody's able to, there are equal opportunities to achieving full potential, not just biogas, but personal potential. And then also there's the third sort of element to it, which is really around how renewable energy can really help drive gender equality, sort of external to the actual industry itself, which I think is probably such an exciting element of, I think, renewable energy. And I know it's one that UNIDO is really quite focused on, and they're looking at, I know there's been talk around how they develop the SDGs to incorporate sort of gender equality within renewable energy because they're so interlinked. So I think it's really important for me to sort of stress that I am a biogas analyst. I'm not necessarily a gender diversity analyst, so I'm presenting the business case, but I will say it will be quite a high-level overview, but I think hopefully as this sort of panel grows, and maybe I can push the case for another session next year, we can start to increase the sort of representation from people like McKinsey and Boston Consultancy Group. So I'll just briefly kind of go over the concept of the business case. It's a business case for diversity. It's a concept that really emerged sort of in the early 1990s, and there's been sort of a lot of movement towards increasing diversity at both, company levels, but also looking at, there's a number of governments that are sort of trying to drive the agenda as well, and implementing sort of quotas around women on boards and things like that. And so there's a lot of think tanks that are producing quite a few really interesting reports that really explore the case. So we've got organisations such as McKinsey, as I said, the Boston Consultancy Group, Centre for Talent Innovation, and they have all sort of demonstrated overwhelming reports that there is a clear link, and I say correlation, between the outputs of an organisation and the diversity of panels, whether that's senior management or upper management. There has been, quite interestingly, particularly McKinsey have published now 3 reports, I think, over the past sort of 5 to 10 years, and what they have demonstrated is quite a clear year-on-year increase in the importance of diversity and in particularly achieving sort of profitability and improving performance. There is also obviously there's an increase in interest to look at how people measure diversity as well, be that gender, ethnic or cultural diversity. Because I appreciate that we'll probably be speaking a lot about gender diversity, but obviously the wider diversity topic of conversation is an incredibly important one. So just a sort of quick overview, and I would really recommend, if you're interested, and I assume that if you're joining us here for this session, you are interested, the Diversity Wins report that McKinsey produced is a really, really interesting one, and goes into it in a lot more detail. But what the most recent report found was that companies in the top quartile of gender diversity metrics on executive teams were 25% more likely to report above average profitability than peer organisations in the lower quartile. And the case is even stronger for ethnic diversity, which demonstrated a 36% increase, which I think is just really fantastic. And obviously it's a very difficult metric to measure, but I think that correlation aspect is just, I think it's fantastic to be able to see that in such a well-presented manner. I think what's more, when it comes down to the bottom line, organisations that lack in both gender and ethnic diversity were 27% more likely to perform poorly when it came to profitability. This has also been backed up by a number of different reports and surveys and studies. So Boston Consultancy Group recently reported that companies with diverse management teams demonstrated 19% higher revenues than those without. And I will stop shooting facts at you shortly, but the Credit Suisse also conducted a really wide-ranging analysis looking at sort of 27,000 senior managers and 3,000 companies around the globe, and found that in organisations where women held 25% of decision-making roles, they generated 4% higher cash flow returns, and when 50% of women held senior management roles, the companies produced 10% higher cash flow returns, which I think is a good metric. I know that generally when we're talking about increasing profitability, people bite the hand off of anybody that says I can increase your profits by 4%, 10%. And I think that something so abstract to some people as diversity, to be able to deliver that, I think is just incredible. The importance, and just around one of the reasons that many people hypothesize that increased diversity really helps deliver that profitability and deliver that performance potential, is really around, you know, the provision of different perspectives, increasing creativity of teams, and then also creating an environment where you can attract in and also retain top talent. And I think that is something that is really crucial to the biogas industry as we're looking to really achieve that full potential. Okay, great. I think, so I'm going to sort of talk a little bit now about the Women in Biogas group. So WBA has a membership working group where we welcome all genders to join us and sort of work towards delivering better outcomes for women and increasing the number of women within the industry. I think what I found incredibly insightful and interesting when speaking to members of the group, we've all got very similar experiences in terms of, you know, standing up and maybe presenting to audiences where there aren't many women, for example. I think I presented quite recently at a conference in Northern Ireland, and actually when I looked up, I counted there were 3 women in the audience. So the rest, there was about 80 people, I think, were men, and it was quite an interesting observation. And so one of the things that we're really focused on doing is increasing the talent pool. I've just realised I've got 2 minutes left, and I've got quite a lot to get through, so forgive me. So the working group has been established now for just over a year. We've conducted a number of different things and actions, and we've got quite a lot of objectives. So over the past year, we conducted our first Women in Biogas survey, and I will touch upon that in a couple of slides, and we'll be producing a report that will hopefully be out very, very shortly. So that was quite an insightful measure of what's going on in the industry. We've produced a number of women in biogas profiles, which you should be able to see on the website. Again, just to kind of showcase the diversity in different roles across the industry, and put faces to positions, I think. And then we've also got a Women in Biogas video where members of the working group have all recorded sort of introduction in their native languages around what they do, what their job role is. Yeah. And then just sort of coming up, we're looking at, again, the report, looking at mentorship programs, potential for outreach into sort of educational outlets to, again, drawing into that talent pool. In terms of the survey, there was so much. It was quite an interesting read. We had really great response, actually, considering it was our first one. So we pushed it out through the networks of the women in the group, and all our external networks. And we ended up having 184 respondents. I think around 70% of them were women, but we did have 30% men. And I think it's really important to get the reflections from all aspects of the industry. And what I'm hoping for next year when we run it is to get more representation from men, more representation from non-European countries. So yeah, watch out for it. But I thought what was really interesting is that of the respondents who answered this question, 93% agreed that gender diversity had a positive impact on their business, which I think is a fantastic response. I probably should have gone around to this the opposite way, because maybe I'm ending on a little bit of a negative. But I just thought it'd be quite interesting to highlight some of the barriers that were raised. So those included sort of lack of role models in certain fields, particularly within engineering, which I think was really something that we did expect. Again, and that's linked to limited influx from STEM backgrounds and STEM courses. Other feedback was, often women are tied to office jobs and not necessarily encouraged into the sort of engineering hands-on day-to-day, and it would be great to see more recognition of women getting involved and getting those opportunities. And then some of the classic ones around maybe failure to facilitate caregiving roles, or assumptions around, aspirations for children and things like that. And another really important one was really lack of mentorship programs. And I am going to end my speech now because I can see the membership manager is telling me off. But one of the things that I thought was quite interesting reading through the literature was that it's not just about mentorship of women mentoring other women, but it's about all aspects within the senior management team offering up their time and ensuring that there's opportunities for mentorship throughout the different sectors of industries. So that was a short-ish introduction from myself. I think we've got two women now who are coming on to talk about actually delivering some really, really fantastic change. It was really inspiring yesterday, because in the awards, both of the women who are speaking today were either nominated or won awards, which I think is just a real, it really demonstrates just the wealth of experience and the delivery of the women that we've got up here. So I'm going to quickly introduce Leidiane Mariani, who she is a member of the Mulheres de Biogás. I probably butchered that because my Portuguese is terrible, but welcome to you.
Thank you. Present? Oh, okay. Okay. Are you hearing me? Okay. Thank you a lot for the opportunity. My name is Leidiane. I am the partnership coordinator. I have to speak here? Okay. Partnership coordinator in the Women in Biogas network in Brazil. The name in Portuguese is Mulheres do Biogás. And I will talk to explain how the network was created, our mission, and how we are working now. But why talk about it? Leanne talk a lot about. Oh, no. I have to put in the same. We have a lot of data showing how a lack of representation of women in our companies, in our government, depending on each country, it's a little bit different. But I was truly expecting arriving this expo and meet more women. Some of my colleagues said I felt as an ET, another planet, because I think in the Brazilian sector, biogas sector, we have more women than here. Was something, yeah. There are a lot of much more men in the sector here, or maybe, or probably, the women are in the office. They are not here, make the decisions, selling the equipment. This is the difference. We are not in the leadership positions. Then we cannot help in the decisions to make our planet and our society more sustainable and with more diversity. Then it's not just about recruiting more women. It's necessary to create an organizational culture that is more open and collaborative, and also consider factors such as cultural fit, personal values, and the individual's perspective that they bring and add to the organizational culture. Here, I will not read, but we have these and more testimonials from women from biogas sector in Brazil. We asked them 1 year ago. Some of the women said, my boss said after a lot of meetings, after 2-3 years of work, that if I was a man, I would be already in a manager position of the selling the equipments. But because I am women doesn't sell, doesn't go to the field to sell equipment. And we have a lot of other situations that we really feel that it's not, you don't have the same opportunities. And most of these women are white women. Imagine if they were black women, or considering the ethnic gap of diversity. Then it's important to hear the women, understand the situations, the difficult to be part of the men clubs, and is because of all it, in July 2020, actually it's not only because this, we only realized that facts after we was part, me and some colleagues was part of this project, this program called Brazil Energy Program. Is a program between, a partnership between Brazilian and British government. We are really grateful to UK because UK, the Prosperity Fund, for what I remember, there was a rule that each program has to work, has all the goals, all the components has to talk and make propositions about gender equity and social inclusion. We, during all the program, we had a consultant in this thematic, and she was every meeting pushing us to talk more and have ideas to how increase the gender equity and social inclusion. And this was the origin of our initiative, the network. We realized that all the factors, all the data, yes, I have already something like this happened with me. Oh, yes, with you too, yeah? Oh, okay, it's not me, it's us. And then we started a small group, a WhatsApp group. Everybody in Brazil loves WhatsApp groups. We have a lot of groups. And we started with the members of the team of this program. I was the leader of the Biogás component team. And then I created this group. We started with 10 members in November. In March 2021, we had the forum, Sulfur Biogas Forum, open in the online forum, open a space to us to discuss about this issue. In that moment, we were 40 members, and in October 2021, we decided to launch our initiative and call it the Mulheres do Biogás Network, the Women in Biogas Network. We did a webinar. We invited important women from the energy sector in Brazil to be part and to really call the attention for the initiative. Today, March 2023, we are 260 members in this WhatsApp group, and I will show what we are doing now. Our mission, here is that, is connect and empower women in the Brazilian biogas sector in pursuit of gender equality, considering that we now need gender equity that is different for gender equality. I am a biogas analyst expert. I'm not a gender expert. I am trying to learn more about, but I learned that equity is different than equality. I will not explain it, but it's something important. Now we need equity to someday we have equality in the conditions and the opportunities. These are our goals. We try to offer a comfort, a welcome space for the women. We also try to make partnership with companies, with organizations. We are starting to do it. We do some meetings. I will show more, but this is the goals. Like these are our dreams, not exactly that we are doing because it's a volunteer initiative. We decide to have a governance of this network. It's totally a volunteer initiative, and we don't have the, I don't know how can I say this in English, but it's not official organization with registration in the government, nothing. We are only, what put us together is our motivation and proposal. We have 5 coordinations: the content, events, communication, partnerships, and engagement. And we have 2 thematic groups, one talking about BNP, and one of the groups talk about biogas treatment. All these women are volunteers, and we have meetings, online meetings, almost all the year we only meet online. And here it's our advisory council. We created it in the last year. We realized that it would be important to be connected with the women that are in leadership positions in the energy sector, in the biogas sector, in the residue sector. Also, one of her is Ita Porto. I don't know how can I, okay, I'll not try. The third in the second line, she works in the field installing small-scale biodigesters. Then we tried to have women from all the regions of Brazil because it's a big country and more different ethnics, and they are our professional reference, and also our ambassadors for the initiative. What we do? I think the main activity, the most activity that happens since the beginning is a monthly and online group mentorships. We meet every month. We invite someone to talk about some subject. Here you can see the list. It's always one about biogas. The other month is about some professional, personal issue. We had in the other year, 2021, about mothers, maternity, and other issues. Like in the last year was mental health, and we invited Josemary, that is a psychologist, for example, to talk about. We don't take the video because we want to have a comfortable space to talk about the women exchange experience. The other thing, we have a blog and a social media. And also we have a talent pool with over 80 women. Then we try social media in LinkedIn and in Instagram. We also participate in biogas events. We have to thank for a Biogas, to CI Biogas, and Brapa, and other institutions that open the event and give us a space to meet the other women and talk about the gender gap. Here are some statements from group members. All they say that what I like most is the feeling of welcome in our female group and the inspiration in seeing so many capable women full of different experience. Because when we arrive in a sector that is mostly, most part of is men, sometimes we feel like different and we close ourselves. And when you find a group like this, you realize, okay, there are other women we can talk about, I can feel more comfortable. I really enjoyed hearing from more experienced women, the exchange of experience, the sense of security we get from the sharing personal situations, knowing we won't be exposed, and other statements. We are really happy because the initiative is a volunteer. We try to do a lot. And if we impacted at least one woman, we are already happy. Our partnerships now, we'd like to have a lot of more logos. Maybe one day we have also to organize ourselves, but also to talk with the companies and ask for support. The Biogas Institute 17, that was where the program, the Brazil Energy Program was executed, the Biogás part, is our incubator. Another, the TXT, is the communication company, published company that gave us our logo, Mulheres do Biogás. One thing that is interesting is there are a network called Brazilian Network for Women in Solar Energy. They was created before us, and I believe they are, that network is our mother, because we have a meeting with them, and they explained how they were working, and now we have a partnership with the support of GIZ, the German company that works in Brazil, and we exchange experience between the two. And now the mentorships, when it's not about biogas, we do together. We invite the women of solar energy and the biogas. And also the World Biogas Association, that we are part of the Women in Biogas working group since last year. Our plans for the future is providing trainings for women, like public speaking, project management, entrepreneurship, publish a document with good practice of our organizations to seek gender equality. A mentorship program with the World Biogas Association, advisory council with men, considering that men are as allies of the network's mission. It's something that this idea comes during the first day here with Brasilia, Gabriel, Luciana, that is important to have this advisory council with men, because they are all you are allies with. It's not a separation or a division. And for conclusions, in sectors mostly made up of men, especially in decision-making positions, it's important to speak out and draw attention to the lack of diversity while seeking to empower and increase women's confidence. It happens in the same moment. You have to draw attention, but in the same moment, you have to increase the sense of community. The sense of community that network brings to women, and the possibility of exchange can make all the difference in these women's careers. More diversity in leadership positions will make it possible to seek and find to increase gender equality and social inclusion through the biogas chain in society. It's our duty to work for biogas to be a means to achieve sustainable development goals, not just energy and decarbonization. In development countries like Brazil, this is even more important. I know it won't be easy, but it's important to work on it. And I have heard a lot about biogas as energy, as digestate, as decarbonization, but it's much more than it. It's sustainable development, it's gender equality, social inclusion, and we have to work for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really great. It was really inspiring, and I hope that our group can learn a lot from yourselves as well.
I sit here.
Do you want to keep a seat here? Sorry. Judith, I think we may be having some technical difficulties with Judith joining. Oh no, she's here. Hi, Judith. So, Judith Marera is joining us from Lanforce. So she's in Zimbabwe, I think, at the moment. So she is doing some incredible work to catalyse action in on sort of alleviating the gender imbalance by delivering renewable energy to rural women. So over to you, Judith. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And we can see you as well.
Thank you. So, my name is Judith Marera, and I'm based in Zimbabwe in the renewable energy sector, focusing primarily on the biogas technology. And I'm just going to speak a little bit on the issues of women, gender equality, and climate change, because I realize that women are the most affected when it comes to climate change, as they are the ones that are vulnerable to the effects of climate change than men. And they also constitute the majority of the world's poor and are more dependent on their livelihood on natural resources that are threatened by climate change. So as Lanforce Energy in Zimbabwe, we are working with women. Apparently, I'm in the field at the moment, whereby I was engaging with other women in the country so that they get to understand the biogas technology, which most people do not understand much, but we are trying our level best in the country to bring the education to them so that they get to understand the biogas technology. And we are also trying to help women to have some income generating projects, as women are the ones that face loss of income as well as harvest. And this is where they depend most in terms of their livelihood. And the related increase in food prices make food more inaccessible to poor people, in particular women and girls, whose health has been found to decline than male health in terms of food shortages. And as a company with Biogas, we are trying to make sure that with the use of the bioslurry, they get to grow more crops and harvest them and sell them on the market. And the women that we work with are those in the rural areas, as they depend mainly on biomass such as wood and crop residue for their energy and livelihoods. Women and girls in our own culture are responsible for collecting traditional fuels, and this is a physically draining task that can take 2 to 20 or more hours per week. As a result, women have less time to fulfill their domestic responsibilities, earn money, engage in politics or other public activities, learn to read or acquire other skills, or simply rest. And girls are sometimes kept from home from school to help gather fuel, perpetuating the cycle of disempowerment. Moreover, when environmental degradation forces them to search further afield for resources, women and girls become more vulnerable to injuries from carrying heavy loads, long distances, long distances, and also face increased risk of sexual harassment. And some are even forced into early marriages as a result. And climate change has significant impacts on freshwater resources, affecting the availability of water used for domestic and productive tasks. The consequences of the increased frequency of floods and droughts are far-reaching, particularly for vulnerable groups, including women who are responsible for water management in the household. So women and girls bear the burden of fetching water for their families and spend significant amounts of time daily holding water from distant resources. The water from distant sources is rarely enough to meet the needs of the household and is often contaminated, such that women and girls also pay the heaviest price for poor sanitation. So given the changing climates, inadequate access to water and poor water quality does not only affect women, their responsibility as primary caregivers and the health of their families. It is also impacts agricultural production and the care of livestock, and increase the overall amount of labor that is expected to collect, store, protect, and distribute water. Energy is particularly critical area in renewable energy, is often cited as a key climate change mitigation technology. Many people question the role of women in energy issues, where energy is primarily thought of in terms of electricity to operate appliances and equipment, gasoline and diesel fuels for motors and vehicles, and the delivery of oil for natural gas. Dealing with these different mediums, that is electricity and fuel, is often considered as men's work, where women are not expected to be involved with power generation and distribution. As a result, as Lanforce Energy, we are working with women and we are training them to become technicians, to become biogas technicians, biogas masons, and we also spent quite some money sending some girl child to university to learn renewable energy fuels at university level, so that we get to expand the technology in the country. And that lack of recognition of the role of women in the energy sector leads to gender blind. This is to say that gender is not taken into consideration. Energy policies that fail to address some of the most pressing factors affecting the capacity of developing countries to adapt to and mitigate to climate change. Despite these challenges, that women and girls have a crucial role in achieving the climate targets as set at the COP26. As valuable members of society, they deserve to participate equally in public. And we are there to bridge the gap as Lanforce Energy. That's the work that we are doing here in Zimbabwe by making sure that women actively engage in national energy and decision making, and that women are given greater involvement so that energy supply can be managed more effectively and more productively in the face of climate change. But also that the dependence on biomass fuels can be killed and raising communities out of extreme poverty. We're just trying to make sure that women get the chance, and women also participate in renewable energies. And most people, when they think of renewable energy, the first thing that comes to mind is solar. But we are also trying to educate the masses that there are other sources of renewable energy, of which biogas is one. I would like to take this opportunity as well to thank the World Biogas Association for giving me this platform to speak at their summit, and the Women in Biogas platform, whereby we get to discuss a lot of issues and we get to exchange ideas in terms of how we can bring about biogas technology to communities around us, and how best we can also make sure that there's more gender equality and that women and girls are relieved from the burdens that they face, and how more girls can participate in STEM subjects, that science, technology, and engineering, mathematics, so that they also get the opportunity that their male counterparts, the boys, get in terms of education quality. And strengthening the role and the voice of women leaders in rural organization is one of the things that we're doing, working with women in rural areas, providing them information on biogas so that they get to disseminate it more in their communities. I'm happy to say that this is something that we are managing, and in Zimbabwe, statistically, we are the only women-led organization that is focusing primarily on biogas and pushing the biogas technology to go further. Without further ado, I'd like to thank you all and thank the World Biogas Association for the support. And I would want to get more support from the World Biogas Association, and I hope that the next summit I'll be able to attend physically. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Judith. That was incredible, and we'll definitely see what we can do next year as well. That was amazing. Are you able to stay on for some questions from the audience?
Yes, I am.
Great. I'm hoping we're going to have some questions from the audience. Great. So one of my colleagues is just going to bring a mic just so that Judith can also hear through that as well.
One of the biggest issues I have in the communities where I work is the stoves and just the setups that really, if not done right, don't go with the workflow of the kitchen. And I find that it's really important that when the system is set up, especially for small scale, that it takes into mind the physical capabilities of women, their workflow, and the social aspect around the house. What are you all doing to help empower women so that the system that is set up for them works for their physical capabilities, the demands on their household as far as around caring for children?
That's a really interesting question. Judith, do you want to answer that first? Yep.
Yeah, sure.
All right. What we are doing in Zimbabwe is when we engage the women, we first identify their needs, what they really want to use biogas for, and we also educate them on other benefits of biogas. So in terms of cooking, we have 4-plate stoves that we provide for the women in the country, which they can use also for baking, so that they engage in baking business where they bake scones, they bake some biscuits and sell on the market. And the children, they will also be able to use the stoves, and they are quite easy to use without harm, without any issues of having the gas having to harm the household. When we engage the women, we engage the family as a whole, and everyone gets to participate on how to use the biogas stores and everything that uses biogas.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think that just thinking about the work that our group do is generally focused around increasing representation within the industry, so that there are more people there to have those conversations. I wonder, is it something that you've done much work on in terms of thinking about flows and influencing policy perspectives?
We are our perspective and our network is more about the most of the members are from the industry of big plants of biogas in Brazil, but we always remember and try to talk about the small scale, because it's really something that is not about only women make leadership, and it's okay, we have to think about other women in the rural areas, and we had, for example, one webinar to present some alternatives, some technologies applied already in Brazil for small scale, and to bring the people to see these opportunities, and that biogas sector is not only about the big industry. We have to talk, and I really suggest to World Biogas Association to next summit, if you have. If it's possible to have a panel only to talk about small scale, would be incredible. It's something that we are talking about it because we are women. Actually, in the end, we will not talk specifically about women. We are talking about social inclusion, but it's important to focus, because all the companies, not only the women, have to talk about the small scale, but in the end, you see, you are the awards. Judith, me and Ita, it's always women. Why? Why only we have to think about the small scale of biogas, and we have to bring this thematic for this industry sector. And if not everybody wants to work on this, but maybe everybody have to put money and funding the initiatives, funding the people that are working in the field, and capacity building, not give biodigester, but learning, teaching how to install, learning, teaching how to. I don't know if I answered your question, but I would like to talk this.
No, that's great.
It's a strongly suggestion.
Great. No, and I know our conference, our Marcoms manager is in the audience, and he may have heard the request for a small micro AD with more female representation. Noted. I think, we've got 3 minutes left. Oh, we've got 2. I don't know whose hand was up first. Sorry. Okay. Finn at the back.
So it's just a quick question of Leidiane. Sorry for my pronunciation.
No, it's okay.
So you mentioned there's more female representation in biogas in Brazil. I'm just really curious to, sort of from your perspective, why you think that is, and is there anything that the UK can learn from Brazil's example?
I think maybe because the Brazilian biogas sector is different from UK, Germany. It's not comes from a big industry with a lot of subsidies from the government. The biogas sector in Brazil, the origin is we have to treat that effluent, we have to treat the residues in the landfills, industries, in the farms. And And then they started, the people that works in these plants realized that there are biogas that could be produced, produce energy. Then it brings there are in these sectors there are women, are men, and small scale sometimes there are more women. You can see Daniela here. She is a biogas producer in a farm, a swine farm in Brazil. And I think it's because there's the difference between the origin of the biogas sector. Now the biogas sector is becoming more industrial, and I hope not only the big plants survive in the biogas sector in Brazil, but also the small and the medium size. But it depends on public policies, and then maybe the women will be participate more in this sector. Actually, I don't think it's a public policy or private programs for gender equity. It's only the consequence of how the biogas sector is originated, how it is now. It's okay?
Yeah.
I can talk
Great.
more after.
Yeah, sure, thanks.
We've got 60 seconds left, so over to you.
So thank you for all your great work. I just wanted to say, as a man who's been cooking with his family on biogas for 15 years, I noticed the industrial bias, the male bias, and the rural bias of biogas. Do we have a lot of women in biogas now pushing for the urban application of small AD, which we've been doing for the last 15 years, to make sure that women in particularly the slums of Egypt, for example, where I began, or the slums of Kenya, where I've worked, all of these marginalized areas can fully realize the health and safety benefits of urban biogas?
Yeah.
That's a good question. And I'd say I'm not aware necessarily of where there are, but I'm sure there are probably women out there, and I guess that's a real question about how we extend our reach as representative organisations to reach out to those individuals who are trying to do that, and those organisations that are trying to do that, and making sure that we're expanding networks to be able to strengthen by numbers. I don't know if you've got, Judith, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that question.
Currently, we are working on introducing the biogas technology to the urban areas as well. With the rampant load shedding that's taking place at the moment, is something that we are working on so that people in urban areas also get to benefit from biogas.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
On that note, we've got 30 seconds, so I just want to say thank you very, very much to Judith and to Leidiane. It was
Thank you.
so great to be able to have this session today, and thank you to everybody for joining. I'm really, really grateful to have you all here. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judith.